Happy Chinese New Year, everyone, or everyone else who celebrates a different version of it. Happy Lunar New Year, or whatever it may be. 恭喜发财, 恭喜发财. This is the Good Anime Palette Podcast, back with another episode. Today's episode is episode 27. We've got, the usual partners in crime, Will and Jason, back in the office after a long week of food and debauchery. How are you doing, buddy?
新年快乐, 新年快乐, Happy Chinese New Year, everyone.
Good health, good wealth.
Yeah, and welcoming the Year of the Tiger.
Yep, it's the Year of the Tiger, so that means we're going to be coming in strong with a new episode. Today's episode is going to be a fun one because you
always say that
because this one is a little bit different because we always talk about like themes, talk about certain characters, talk about producers, directors, properties. This time we're actually talking about something that is a sum of its parts. We're talking about everything is an amalgamation of different characteristics, different personalities, and different motives to be able to create like the actual purpose of why a manga or an anime exists.
So I may not agree with what you're saying, Will, but I do support your ability and your freedom to say it.
What do you disagree with?
I'm just making a word play on the theme of today's topic.
Right.
But hey, Chinese New Year, everything's good. We chilled the fuck out. It was great. Had food.
Yep.
Saw family.
It was a nice ensemble of people coming together, right?
Yeah, it was great. No, actually, we're not doing that. Remember, we made a distinction.
We'll have a discussion about that later on. So before we go into the topic, we're going to be going over the usual, the watch lists of the anime and the manga that either has been going on this season or the stuff we've been catching up on. I've watched a bit, read a bit, and then I took a break over Chinese New Year. But I think I had a lot going on. You had a little more of a more chill schedule.
Oh, I was so chilled. And what I ended up doing was completing about 7 to 8 anime series on my on hold list. But I'm not going to mention like most of them because, well, whatever. But thank God I'm trying my best to keep that New Year's resolution, the Western New Year's resolution of clearing out as much of on hold anime as I can.
Yeah, now your on hold list is like 50?
No, it's like 63 or something. It's not. It's like it went from like
progress is progress. Okay?
Yeah, it went from like 70 something to 60 something. Look, within like 2 weeks to go down like 8 anime series to completion is. I'm happy. Okay.
Well, why don't we start with you then? Like, what was one of the series that you watched that you want to talk about?
Actually, before we do that, last episode it was our winter
26 episode winter premieres.
Yes. We watched something we should talk about.
Right. Okay.
I think that is more. We should just.
This series debuted shortly after the release of our winter 2022 premiere episode. So of course that meant we couldn't talk about it, but we're coming back with you with some fresh intel about what has been going on this winter season. We got to talk about Ryman's Club,
also known as Salaryman's Club. Now, when Will and I was looking at the lineup. Obviously, this anime premiered at a later time than the release of our episode, so we couldn't cover it. But we were not optimistic. We were just like, this is just a whatever show. Oh, it's an anime original about produced by Ryman Films. It's about dudes in a business league for badminton.
Yep. Suits and badminton just does not sound like a combination that should exist, but for some reason, and we don't know much about Japanese corporate culture or sports culture, but I guess apparently
hey, we know sports culture.
Well, I mean, like in terms of how Japanese leagues are created, right?
That is true.
So apparently, professional business leagues for sports exist, and in this world, there is. It's not underground at all. This is like very much like a over-the-counter, like real-time kind of thing where large conglomerates and businesses duke it out on a badminton court by pitching their best badminton players who are also, professionally working as salespeople for the company, whether it's to push for sports drinks or massage chairs or whatever services and products they advertise. It doesn't sound like something that should be interesting, nor should it work. But episode 1, if that was anything to go by, I'm pretty excited for how the rest of the season is going to turn out.
So initially what happened was we knew that this was going to debut on that certain day. And I was like, okay, let's just see what the score is. The score jumped from obviously not non-applicable because it hasn't premiered to a 7.40. I think right now it holds a 7.48. So
for 9.
For 9.
It's very close to breaching the 7.5 mark. We watched the trailer for it as well. We watched it before we even got into watching the series, and like we gotta admit, like,
it is 4.8.
Yeah, 4.48. Okay,
It dropped a bit.
So it wasn't like, oh, we were super blown away by the trailer. It looked snappy. Like, it showed you like the action shots. It showed you like a little sort of like preview what the backstory would look like. We were okay. We weren't like so blown away by it that we had to watch it. But considering there wasn't much to pick from this winter season, we thought, hey, why don't we check it out? You watched it first.
Yes.
And then literally within 20 minutes, you're like, well, you got to watch this. I'm like, okay, I'm on my lunch break now. I'm going to go turn it on. Within 5 minutes, I'm like, this is it. This is what we missed out on. This is what didn't come out before our episode.
So our message exchange throughout this play-by-play of Will watching this episode and previously me watching this episode was kind of funny and crazy because we just kind of lost our minds. The story of the anime, at least from the first episode, is actually I don't even remember all the names, but main character is a very highly successful badminton player, but due to certain incidents, he got fired or let go from his previous company. He decided to go home, and then all of a sudden on his way home, he receives a message, and another company is willing to give him an offer, and he's not really concerned about the job because even though it's a sales job, he's mainly concerned about playing badminton in the business league. So I guess, as Will said, we don't know if that's like a huge thing, but apparently it's a big thing in this anime. And then, obviously, in badminton, you can play singles and doubles, just like, for example, in a lot of racket sports. And due to certain reasons, our main character does not want to play doubles anymore. He just wants to play singles. And let's just say, long story short, he's going to play doubles with a very unlikely partner.
The animation quality was incredibly surprising. I think that we knew with Leiden Films doing it, it was going to look decent. Because, I mean, like, I recently watched and finished up the Tokyo Revengers anime. And whilst it did look good, action sequences weren't very smooth or fluid. But watching Ryman's Club, the animation quality, especially when they were doing the actual badminton matches, were really, really good. It was incredible how high quality they were.
What was that series that Leiden Films also did? Billionaire Detective?
A Millionaire Detective.
Right, and I said
Unlimited Balance.
And I said that, hey, it looks exactly like that. So if you have seen that series, regardless of how you feel about it, I think it looks pretty good. And Ryman's Club is, if not the same, but maybe even better, especially when they do the matches.
Yeah, I think overall you can still see a little grittiness that Leiden Films has, especially when they're doing the more sort of like dialogue heavy sort of SOL sort of segments. But overall, it was a very neatly put together package. It's kind of like how we feel about Sabikui Bisco, where okay, like the stories, I don't really know what's going on here, but the action sequences were fucking ridiculous, and that's pretty much what got our attention, and we're pretty excited to see what's going to happen after episode 1.
When it comes to sports anime, I feel that when it comes to the plot being a very generic plot, I tend to give it a pass because it's really less about how they the destination as to how they get there. And I have to do a special shout out, and I'm sure Will would agree, is the sound design and the music. The orchestral soundtrack is really on point, like super, super on point. This is Ryman's Club, at least from the first episode. We have to really stipulate it could drop in terms of quality, but if they could maintain this quality, this is basically Haikyuu plus Kuroko no Basket, kind of. Would you say?
It takes definitely the best parts of them, and it doesn't necessarily replicate the same hype and feel, but it gives you a similar kind of feeling. There are points when, like, you know, when they shuttle the cock real hard.
Yeah, I was like, that was a quote of the day for me. Will said that to me word for word through messages, and I was just
and then every now and then you just be messaging and say, okay, what in the Haikyuu is going on here? And you show me an inspirational quote that one of the athletes says. I'm like, this is okay. Like, I'm sold. Let's do this.
And I will tell you the quote. You lose when the shuttle hits the ground, so I will return all of them.
Oof. Look, if you can't already figure like how hype we are about Ryman's Club, you should go check it out. Again, it's only just been one episode that we watched. I think it's slated for like a one cur. Who knows how long it is?
Who knows? Yeah.
But it is definitely worth checking out.
It's basically better than Hanebado, which is what a lot of people draw parallels to, because it's basically Hanebado is female badminton, and I thought that series was just okay. This is better for sure.
It was hovering below a 7 last I checked. It was like a 6.9 something. It could be lower, it could be higher, but it definitely wasn't a 7 for Hanebado.
All right, so last episode also, I mentioned that Will is going out on an excursion, and then therefore, in order to prep for it, I suggested, among many other things, to watch a certain series.
This is based on the fact that like we watched Slow Loop, and Slow Loop is really, really cute girls doing really cute fly fishing, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then Jay's like, yeah, this is pretty much like a light version of Yuru Camp,
also known as Laid Back Camp.
And since I was going camping, which I did do last week,
you should have killed those boars, by the way.
Those boar, no, there was a whole family, man. I wasn't about to kill a baby boar. There were a lot of cows though, but we didn't have the right tools to actually properly dismantle. Anyways, the thing with Yuru Camp is it's incredibly informative, but at the same time incredibly cute. And so I watched both seasons. One season on Crunchyroll and one season on Netflix, because that's how things are done nowadays.
Oh, no, I think the second season is also on Crunchyroll.
Is it? It wasn't on mine. Like, when I was looking at it, I was like, I tried clicking it and it wasn't there. Okay. But then I looked over on Netflix and it was there. So maybe they made the switch over.
So Yuru Camp is based on the manga of the same name. Yen Press publishes the English manga. Season 2 premiered last year in winter 2021. Produced by C Station, which they don't really do much, but listen. Yuru Camp is fantastic. Primo, slice of life / fluffy / cute girls doing cute things, but this time they're going camping. The score on my anime list for these two series is through the roof. I think Yuru Camp Season 2 is ranked 54 or something really high like that.
It's definitely one of those shows where, like, we talk about shows where you can just sit back, turn off your brain, and enjoy something. But this is, like, the pinnacle of it, where you just sit back and you watch these girls go out and enjoy the very thing that they set themselves out to do, which is to enjoy camping to the max. Whether it's to do it solo, do it as a group, or even just go out and buy camping equipment or make money to be able to fund a camping excursion. And the best part is, the things that I watched and learned from the show actually applied to real life, because I basically used every single tip that they showed and it all worked when I was camping. I mean, of course, they suggested not to camp on a beach or at least pick a grassy field. We had limited options, so we made the best of what we could. But everything went off without a hitch, and it's all thanks to Yuru Camp.
I have to say also that the opening for Yuru Camp Season 1 and the opening for Yuru Camp Season 2 not only kind of has the same feel.
You were very right about Season 1 OP being very Jackson 5.
Yes, it is.
It's uncanny how similar it sounds. It's a fucking good OP.
And then
the second OP is great too.
Yeah,
really
Seize the Day for Season 2 is just, they're just so, it makes you feel nice. It makes you feel good. So I gave Yuru Camp Season 1 an 8. I gave Yuru Camp Season 2 a 9, because instead of having to introduce all these characters in Season 1, Season 2 kind of introduced not only more characters, but you actually see all the interactions. And there were some very nice, cute moments, and there's even some drama kind of situations that campers might encounter that I feel is actually quite important, because even though it's done in a very nice, fluffy way, when you think about it, it could spell disaster.
I gave both seasons a 9. I understand with Season 2 being like same shit, different day, but in a really positive manner, and the fact that it's a whole ensemble, everybody's there. I thought that with Season 1 at your hand, it was a lot more informative, and the fact that a lot of the things they taught me actually worked in real life, I had to give them that extra point. So, overall, an incredibly solid show. I think that even if you don't have much of an interest in camping, who doesn't want to see cute girls doing cute things? And if it's camping and they're all really, really passionate and into it, like, it's just a great time. Just sit back and literally lay back and enjoy it.
It's great. It's super great. So that is the Yuru Camp Excursion Report. Probably the only one until either we talk about Room Camp, Heya Camp, which is kind of their anime shorts, or the movie that's coming out. So,
yeah, it's good. I'm actually excited to watch the movie. As much as it's a show that's like, it's not an exciting show, right? But that's usually just how cute girl slice of life shows are. They're not supposed to be like high octane intense. Like, oh, like what the fuck's going on? This is an amazing show kind of feel. It's more just, oh wow, this girl finally has her moped and she's finally able to go out and buy more camping equipment and actually have a more fulfilling experience when it comes to doing solo camps. This is really, really cute. And holy hell, it is really, really, really damn cute.
So another series that I finished as one of my on hold series also is a cute girl kind of doing a cute thing. It is an anime called Senryu Shoujo. It is a manga series written and illustrated by Masakuni Igarashi. There's currently
you pronounce that name without a hitch.
I know. I'm getting better. I'm learning. So there is currently no English translation as of right now, but the series is complete, and there is currently one anime season with 12 or 13 episodes, but each episode is half episode length, so around 13 minutes. All you need to know is this. There is a girl who doesn't talk, except she talks in Senryu, which is, a lot of literary people are going to hate me for this, but it is basically almost the same format. No, it is the same format as haikus with the 575 syllables. But there is a difference between the two, and I think it's something to do with the theme or the topic that is the one that differentiates between the two. So you might say to yourself, well, how does a mute girl talk? Well, obviously because they talk in the 575 syllable, and it is voiced by none other than Kanahana. And it talks about this girl's kind of lovey-dovey, not really romance with this guy who looks like a delinquent, but is actually like super into Senryu.
Is there anything that Kanahana can't do? Nothing.
Nothing.
I think as soon as like a show comes out, it's like they're always creating characters with Kanahana in mind.
I mean, I think Adachi and Shimamura, they got Kanahana to voice like some random kelefe, like some random girl that shows up and has 3 lines. But then everyone was like, yo, this
most impressionable character there is.
For 3 lines is dope. So this anime short, 13 episodes, is really cute because, for example, this girl talks in Haikyuu Soujin. She has like these little like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like sheets where the Senryu is like written on. And she would do stuff like she would run and then she would have it show up. And you're just like, how's that going to work? But it's anime, so. And it's just really funny because a lot of the 575 actually works within the context and you learn quite a bit. And they also deal with certain other characters as well. And it's just really nice, wholesome, fluffy, and it's really easily digestible because they're all half episodes, and I really want an English translation, but I don't think we're going to get it because it's been a while. So, yeah, you should check it out. It's really, really good.
Right. Now, I didn't tell Jason that I read a manga until this morning, so we're officially listing it as a mystery manga, but you know damn well what this manga is because as part of the seasonal bet that we did last season, I had to read or watch Tsuredure Children, and you gave me the first volume of it. I was going to read it anyway, as opposed to watch it, just because the score differentials on Mal were quite big. I think it was like a 7.6 for the anime versus an 8.25 for the manga, and given that vast difference, it just made sense to read it instead. So The manga itself came out in 2014, published by Kodansha as part of their Besatsu Shonen magazine lineup. For the English producer, it's done by it's produced by and published by Kodansha USA. So still very much under the Kodansha umbrella. 2014, it ended its serialization in 2018 for a run of 12 volumes. So there's a lot of stuff you can read. However, when it comes to the anime, there's only at the moment 1 season that was adapted, and that was done by Studio Kokumi back in 2017. So if you want like the full Tsuredure experience, you're going to have to read the manga, which, fortunately for everyone here, it's all done in English now, right? They got the English adaptations in a Convention US.
Yeah, I read all of it. It's great.
It's so here's my problem with Tsuredure Children.
All right.
I still have no idea what the point of it is, because there are the format is a 4-koma, which is basically 4 panels, 4 panels, 4 panels, 4 panels, little squares of like dialogue and action, and that's supposed to tell one small chapter of a story, and then the next one another chapter of the same story, and then another chapter until it reaches its end and then moves to a new story. Now within each story, it is focused on usually 2 characters, 1 male, 1 female, or it could be 2 female or 2 male, whatever it may be, and it focuses on sort of like high school, middle school romance, right? Like basically mustering the confidence to confess to your loved one, or being hit with a confession and not really knowing what to do, or maybe asking a girl out on a date, but you've never been on a date before, so you're very nervous and you don't know how to keep yourself composed, or it seems to be like a thing that happens in not just Japanese manga and anime, but also in Western media as well. A student confessing their love to a teacher. Again, this is all, this is all fiction. Don't take what I say for real, but it's a storyline. Or maybe just basically someone, like trying to teach you the ways of romance and love and all that. A lot of it is very comical. A lot of it is very sweet. And I guess the point in the series itself is, they show it at the very end as well. You're supposed to start building up an infinity, like a love for one character's journey, or maybe multiple characters' journeys. So they'll have at the end a little synopsis of which character is which, what their sort of spiel is by having a little quote from them. It's all very cute, at times a little fluffy, at times really funny. My issue with it, however, there's so many fucking characters, man. I don't remember any of their names. I don't remember who did what, who confessed to who got caught smoking, why the teacher got confessed to, and like how many teachers there are in this school that have pseudo relationships with students, not romantic, just basically there's like interest not actually acted on. Like at the end, there are 34 characters. 34 fucking characters. And for the most part, most manga and anime do have a lot of characters, right? But they'll introduce you to them one by one. But each character in the first volume has significance that goes beyond just the couple panels they're in. They will actually develop over the next 11 volumes after the first one. And I don't know who to root for. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, because I've been given so much information. I don't remember. There's like a Kanakawa, there's like a Tanase, there's like a Tanako, a Jun, a Kiyami, and like I don't know who was who. They all are kind of similar. I will admit some of the skits, some of the chapters they have are pretty cute and funny. I just don't know, like, is it going to really be the same thing over and over the next couple of volumes?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so first of all, the anime series that Will mentioned, each episode is actually half episode length, so they're 13 minutes each. So
this is just for the anime, not the manga.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah.
The manga is obviously 12 volumes. I love it. It definitely, the whole point of the manga and the anime is to look at different pairings and various stages of relationships, as Will said. Some are in a relationship already, some are just starting, some haven't started, some are having difficulties trying to start it, and it is a lot of characters. And if you, for example, Will, if you just Google the cover of volume 12 of Tsuredure Children, you will understand what I'm talking about in terms of the wealth of characters. What I can say for a fact is you start caring less about the names and start being like, oh, this is the character with the pigtails. Oh, this is the tall character. This is the guy with the glasses. And actually, that works out very, very well because their aesthetics don't change, so it's very easy later on to grasp who is who. And in the later chapters, in the later volumes, everyone kind of mingles with one another such that there is context that follows. Because in the beginning, rightfully so, that Will said, they're kind of all kind of disjointed, and yeah, they all go to the same high school, but they kind of like don't really interact with each other, but I can tell you that later on, not only the fluffiness jumps up, but it gets rather emotional, and I sobbed a couple of times.
It's for sure, like, okay, like, for lack of a better word, it's a clusterfuck. Because there's like 50 different plot lines going on in the first volume, and rightly so, because you're trying to look at pairings, and when there's 34 fucking characters just from the first volume, you're gonna see multiple stories, interactions between pairings, and it'd be at least 15, 17 pairings. One memorable character that I did like was
Yes.
I forgot which character's younger sibling it is, but when the sister shows up and she's incredibly clingy and protective and always just trying to find
Hotaru, right?
yeah. I liked her a lot. She was one of the more memorable because for her, like, her prerogative was different. Everyone else was trying to, like, confess. Everyone was trying to understand what it means to be in a relationship. Some were like, of course you have the dense MC kind of thing where it's like, oh, I like someone. Oh, you do? Oh, yeah, I like a teacher. Oh, I wonder who that teacher is. And, like, that teacher's sitting there wondering. And then the other person's like, wow, this person is really bad at their job. They can't even read emotions, but I can't help but fall in love with them, blah, blah, blah. So, like, you get those, like, typical kind of romantic plot lines, but with a lot of comedy that's thrown into it. I did like the very protective, clingy younger sister who was, like, just trying to destroy any relationship whatsoever.
Did you see the skit that involved a telephone?
Yeah.
Or a cell phone?
Yeah, I also saw the skit with the razor blade. Yeah, I was wondering if this is going to be the beginning of a Yunogasai, like a yandere kind of thing. But no, she's just madly in love with someone and is not above, like, going into self-harming in order to get the attention of her loved one, which, yeah, it can go to some dark places. I'm assuming that some of those things are going to be further explored, further expanded on. I guess I have to see what happens in Volume 2 and beyond to really understand the full world of Tsuredure children, because at this moment, if you just go by Volume 1, you will get lost.
You will get lost.
It's not, okay, like, despite my gripes, it's not a bad manga. It just takes you a little, but you can't just read it panel for panel for panel. Most of the time, whenever you're reading a manga, you can kind of go from beginning to end, get a good grasp of the world, of the characters, and then you're ready for the next one. Like, that's how I did it with One Piece, how I did it with Tokyo Ghoul, with Monster, with Berserk, because it all flows in one direction. But because with Zuri Children, each plotline flows for like 14. Jesus Christ! You just showed me the cover of Volume 12.
Those are all the characters that show up.
Yeah. So it's beyond 34, right? It's
You're not even close to having all.
So
the reveals.
you have, like, I think it's like 15, like 16 to like 20 panels for one plot line, and then end. Then the next one shows up. So it's like every 3 to 4 pages is like one storyline.
It literally jumps from ship to ship.
Yeah, and it's like 130 pages for the first volume. So, like, from that alone, there is already like 30 to 40 different plot lines. Some are connected, some are just on their own. And it works because I think the thing is, like, if you want to focus on a specific character or a specific ship, you can. You could just skip some of the other panels, though I think suggested, like, because of how clusterfucky it gets with all the characters, probably shouldn't skip any of the stories. Just read everything. Yeah, just based on the first volume alone, it's not enough. You really have to read more of it, and I can see where this is going to be, like, why it's more popular, why it's actually highly rated. It's just, goddamn, like, it took a lot for me to flip back and forth and really understand what the hell was going on.
Okay,
but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay, my favorite pairing is Akagi and Kaji, which is the delinquent girl and the class president.
Oh, the girl who got caught smoking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
that part was actually really funny. Because I remember it's like it's like soft blackmail, but it wasn't really, because she was also down for it as well. It's like, oh, how much would it cost for this? Oh, it'll be that much. Oh, how coincidental. And just pulls out a stack of cash. It's like, why do you carry this money around with you? I have a very lucrative part-time job. It's like, yeah. Actually, no. Wow, you're actually doing this to me now, because now I'm actually remembering specific pairings.
Yeah.
And some of them I don't remember at all.
And then my second favorite pairing is voiced actually in the anime by Kanahana.
God damn it.
And she is called Yuki, and she professes her love super, super, super early to this really shy guy who's the class rep.
Is that the first story?
Absolutely.
Right.
No, that's not the first story. The first story is
a girl converts into a guy as well, right?
Right, but then okay, I'm not gonna say, but yes, dude, they're all like a girl and a guy.
I think
much.
like you could kind of spoil them anyway because it's like that's literally just how the relationship starts. It's what happens afterwards you shouldn't spoil anyway. I feel like most of the time, like first episodes or first volumes, you can spoil a little bit because you're gonna have to start from somewhere, and it's not like those are groundbreaking spoilers. You're gonna have to get through it anyway. But yeah, would I give Tsuredure Children a recommendation? At the moment, yeah, I could say it works for most people. It's starting to make a little more sense to me, especially after reading the first volume. I will need to read more to give it like a solid thumbs up. But look, like, if you want to take the journey and just jump straight into it before I do, go ahead. Like it's available in English. It's not hard to get, and if you just want to read, just want to watch anime, there's a season of it. So
it's not obviously complete in terms of the whole manga adaptation, but it's good to, understand what it's all about. And if you're really interested, I highly, highly recommend the manga. It's 10 out of 10. I finished it from beginning to end in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah. So that concludes. I think that does conclude the read and watch.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So we can now do a smooth transition into the latter half of this section, which is going over something we didn't do last week, which is talk about news. Last episode was just heavy with recommendations and overviews of the Winter 2022 season. Therefore, we decided just to nix the news section. But we're coming back with some pretty cool news, especially for specific creators, specific series, and then also in the world of what the fuck anime, what the fuck Japan, what's going on here. We have some of that kind of news too. So, Jason, you want to start us off with the first bit of news?
Yeah, it's really it's a really good segue that we ended the reading watching with reading because Shueisha's Manga Plus app, which
very
is
good app by the way, very good app,
is an app that Will and I use quite a bit, has actually made a decision, which is they are now allowing all readers of the app to read all English chapters of any manga once. Now, I don't know how they're going to track that. Oh, I guess like when you read it, when you get to the end.
Yeah, they'll pop up a read counter to, oh, you've concluded this, you want to read it again, But that's, I actually really like that.
I love it because, first of all, it allows you to really consume the whole series or whatever is released up to date, right? But furthermore, it just also gets users kind of acclimated into the digital manga space using the app, such that, the next chapter of My Hero Academia is just out. Oh, Spy X Family's out. Oh, yeah, sure. I read, I used the app already. Why don't let's continue? And I think the app is pretty well integrated, and it's a very good move because if you want to reread it, you pay, but that's it. But you read it for free already.
Now, there is a stipulation, though. It does occur over a 1 year period.
Yes, that is true.
Which, to be fair, 1 year is quite a long time. And if you're not reading all the manga, you're reading some of it, that's still like a really good sort of like trial period, right? And it's also not all of its manga. It's the simul-release manga. So stuff that is coming out essentially and published at the same time in Japan. But there's quite a lot on here. I'll just run you through a couple of series that are like free to read. So there's, of course, One Piece, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Clover, Dr. Stone, Undead Unluck, Mashle, Me and Roboco, Sakamoto Days, Elusive Samurai, Blue Box, Boruto, Dragon Ball Super, Volt Trigger, Dan Dan Dan, Spy X Family, Monster Number 8, or Kaiju Number 8, one of my personal favorites. Hokkaido Girls are super adorable. Even If You Slit My Mouth, which is, that one's actually like super underrated. People need to read that one.
Yeah, they should read that one.
And Choujin X. So those are the ones that you can read for free for a year. I ended on Choujin X actually because it makes sense.
I know. Yes.
Choujin X, we've talked about how not great the manga is, but it's still doing fine. It's still being serialized.
So Choujin X is written and illustrated by So Yoshida, which is very well known for being the author of Tokyo Ghoul Re.
One of my personal favorites. So on the 10th year of the Weekly Shonen Jump, the Weekly Young Jump magazine, it was revealed that So Yoshida has decided to not serialize Choujin X on the magazine, but instead he'll be moving the serialization to another manga site that Shueisha does, which is Tonari no Young Jump. Now, I don't really know the difference between either of them, but it seems that the difference is that he's able to work a little bit more on his own schedule. He's not sort of adhering a more strict kind of release schedule, which I guess is good. I think like the release of Choujin X was already pretty irregular, right? I think like they released like a couple chapters, and then there was nothing for a while, and then more chapters came out. Maybe he's really wanting to take his time to flesh out the story, because I gotta admit, like, it just doesn't feel like a very good manga at the moment. It feels like it's taking a lot of tropes and characteristics of Tokyo Ghoul that made it good, and is now sort of repackaged into a different flavor, which at the moment is not a flavor that I'm enjoying too much.
I feel the same way that Will just said, and I also feel that in a way, even though it's not, they're both Shueisha magazines or digital magazines, but Young Jump is where Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul was housed. And to me, at least, when you move, it's kind of like a lateral movement, but within the same company kind of thing. I kind of feel like it's a symbolic gesture that, like, oh, it's not the same anymore. Maybe that's not the case, but at least as an observer from the outside, I'm like, oh, the one place that you called home for the longest time that made you famous is now like, yeah, nah, bro, but we're not letting you go, but just go next door. So I don't know what that means.
We don't know, right? It could have been a Shueisha decision. It could have been a Tsuyoshida decision. It could have been mutual, or just essentially one reason or another is no longer going to be serialized on Weekly Young Jump. It'll be on Tonari no Young Jump. So it's still you're still going to get your Choujin X content, but really, I think like there's got to be some improvements made on this. I mean, look, the tagline for the series itself is, if you like,
oh my god, yes, go.
To fight a monster, you must become one, which, to be fair, is literally the same fucking thing that happens in Tokyo Ghoul. So, like, I don't understand why they even bothered using that line. Like, sometimes, like, a leopard doesn't change its spots, right? Like, it's hard to teach a dog new tricks. This very much feels a similar situation to that.
It doesn't matter what clothes or how you dress it up. Sometimes people are just going to look the same regardless of what attire they wear, which then goes into our next topic.
Wow, we're really going in with the segues.
Will is like cringing so hard. So one of the anime, seasonal anime this winter is My Dress Up Darling. It is probably my seasonal anime of the season, minus, I guess, Demon Slayer and AOT, even though that's kind of whatever. But
what about Takagi?
Dress Up Darling's better.
Okay.
So I would say as a non-sequel especially, Dress Up Darling as an anime property is really well done, and it's great. And
episode 4 hits hard. It gets good. I think like if you haven't already started yet, like you will enjoy a very, very fruitful and emotional journey from episode 1 up to the latest episode. It's not just, boobs and cosplay.
I mean, there is always that, but they add more stuff in. There are currently 4 volumes currently out in English by Square Enix Manga, and I read all 4 of them a while ago. I loved it, and apparently now a lot of people agree, because My Dress Up Darling manga has now put 1 million more copies in circulation since the anime premiered, which is just, this is episode 4, right? So a month in, you are up 1 mil. That's crazy. Okay, it won't be up 1 mil every week, but as like the momentum is great.
So considering the average manga, at least in Japan, costs anywhere between 400 to 500 yen, right? And then you multiply that by a mil. That's $5 million right there. $4 to $5 million, which is pretty phenomenal work for just 1 month of anime. Now, of course, a lot of things go into anime production. It's not so much that like, oh, because the manga is making this much money, like, it equates and overcomes like the costs put into creating the anime. But like, we got to look at it in a positive note, right? $1 million in 4 weeks is pretty crazy.
I'm sure the mangaka is extremely happy about this, and I think everyone is extremely happy, because it's kind of is like it feeds itself, right? People read more, word spread. They would then read the manga, and then they will watch the anime, and then I think they deserve the success because it's a very good property. It's a very good anime adaptation. Cloverworks is awesome.
Cloverworks did a really, really good job with not just Dress Up Darling, but also Akebi's silly uniform. I can't say the same about Tokyo Ward, but we're not even going to talk about that. Definitely feel that Dress Up Darling is really good. I don't think the OP is that great.
I think it's fine. I like the ED better.
Yeah, the ED's way better. Speaking of OPs.
So, another seasonal anime airing right now that should be on everyone's radar is Attack on Titan, the final season part 2. I can't believe I have to say the whole title.
It's a bit of a mouthful. It's going to get worse when they announce what's going to happen after. Like, okay, spoiler alert, and this is not really a spoiler because considering like how this has been paced, I don't think that we're seeing the end of Attack on Titan yet. I think we're due for another bit, but that's not about this piece of news. This piece of news is about music, and the opening for Attack on Titan final season part 2 is fucking lit. It's great.
Do you like it?
I do like it.
I actually have not heard it.
Yeah, because you decided to go read ahead, right? Because the manga's done now. I've done the same too, but so I had like not really issues with the first OP from part 1.
Now that one I remember.
That one was very different from all the other OPs.
I mean, that opening sequence was kind of psychedelic.
It was extremely colorful for an anime that's incredibly dark and bleak. But the second OP for part 2, oh no, the OP for part 2. Oh man, I'm getting so this is so hard.
All right, okay. I'll just clarify. So for Attack on Titan, the final season part 2, which is airing right now this winter anime season, reached number 1 on the U.S. Billboard Hard Rock chart.
Yeah, let that sink in, folks. A Japanese animation, the opening for an anime that came out this season, is now doing gangbusters for a Billboard, not in Japan, but in the U.S. So you haven't heard it yet, but that's because you haven't finished part 1.
I haven't even finished season 3.
Ah, there you go. Okay, so you listened to the opening for part 1.
I mean, I watched it with you.
Yeah, so you're gonna have
because when they did the switch with the studio, so
you're gonna have to start picking up on at least check out the OP. You don't have to watch part 2, considering you're pretty much already done. But hey, the music is good. It is really good.
So throughout the existence of this podcast alone, I have seen tons and tons of news stories about Chainsaw Man being on the New York Times bestseller list. Certain thing is getting a Harvey Award, I think was one of them.
Harvey Awards, yeah.
Yeah, or for example, Belle is standing ovation in the Cannes Film Festival. I know I keep mentioning that.
Certain manga are getting listed for like the U.S. library services and all that. Like
France decided to be like, yo, we love manga, bro.
Young kids need to read more, so we're gonna give them money to buy manga.
Yeah,
which is actually pretty cool.
No, they gave them money, and then like 80% of them is like, "Yo, I'm just gonna spend it on manga. We cool? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool."
So it's again that little proliferation into Western cultures, right? But this is different because the fact that like the music industry is incredibly hard to crack into in the U.S. But like this is also Attack on Titan.
Okay, so I mean, it's not really spoiler or anything. Is the song sung in English?
I actually don't remember.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, because I actually haven't watched... Okay, so I watched one episode of part 2, but then I decided to go ahead and read the rest of the manga. So
okay.
I just remember being incredibly lit. But again, it's Attack on Titan. The music is always going to be lit.
We'll report back after the break. The point is, Attack on Titan or /anime/manga in general is making a huge splash all around the world, not just right now, but throughout the past couple of years. And it is a very positive thing, not only for the industry, but also for the Wii community at large, and I love it.
Yeah, so now we're going to move away from America, move back to the East, go to Japan, and, enhance and focus in on Niigata Prefecture of Japan.
Will, I need you to imagine a scene, okay? So, the lights through the sun.
Coming in through the cracks of my window.
Exactly, the curtains, exactly, and... your alarm bell rings, you hit it, maybe several times because you want to snooze.
Yeah, I snooze at least twice.
But then
Stretch out, get ready to get out of bed.
Then your mom bangs on the door and you realize you're late. So then you run, try to, go over your younger siblings who are also brushing their teeth, but they're chilling because they're on time.
Go to the living room and there's a full spread of breakfast waiting for me there. And it's like, oh, sorry, Mom, I got no time. With every single, not just Japanese, but also any media where it's like you're running late, you just grab one thing. And more often than not, it's a slice of toast.
Oh, no, but wait. But then you go back again because you forget to get your bento lunch. But okay, yes, you then run out the door with a toast in your mouth. Anime has done this since the beginning. Things like K-On! Or a lot of romance stuff do this where they kind of run into each other at a corner because they can't see each other, and the girl with the jam and toast and whatever. So it's a trope, it's a meme. It's very common in Japanese anime, manga, or even live action.
It's honestly something that we love. I don't see any problem with cute girl running down the road with a piece of toast in her mouth.
But what Asian people also like quite a bit, or at least consume quite a lot of, is rice. Now,
Gohan. I think like when it comes to rice consumption, like you can't beat Asia. I'm sorry, like Asia's got it on lock. But the industry's not happy because why are toasts being put on anime screens and computer screens and phones and tablets, and this trope exists? But what about rice? Why bread, bro? Yeah, so the Niigata Prefecture government has come out and is now promoting Onigiri Girl and a bunch of other rice products because what they're doing is they're blaming Toast Girl, for the declining consumption of rice in Japan.
I have to read this headline word for word. Niigata government blames girl running with toast anime trope for decline in rice consumption. Let that sink in again. Like, oh my god, that is so funny. Also, like, yeah, okay, I kind of get it, but like, bro, like,
this honestly feels like a troll. Like, I'm actually going to read this word for word, which is reported in the Anime News Network. So they released a video that explained why they're releasing this campaign, this rice campaign. Is it because of that one scene in anime? We wondered if there was anything in Japanese culture that explains the decline in rice. And our answer is the girl who's late running with toast in her mouth. That fucking bitch. Okay, that part wasn't what they said. But the standard trope shows the girl with toast in her mouth turning the corner and bumping into her destined one. There's a possibility that a repetition of these scenes over time have caused young people to associate breakfast with bread. And as Niigata specializes in rice products, they decided to they need to put their foot down and take action.
So
fuck bread, rice is life. They now have Onigiri Girl, and they run all these campaigns featuring an actress named Manami Igashira.
Yo, so that's the thing. It's live action and it's not anime.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that so badly. Like, okay, you say it's an anime trope, right? I get it because it is. I totally get it. And you being, a pioneer or one of the forefronts of the rice industry in Japan, I also get that because I guess the image of bread associated with breakfast, it kind of makes sense.
This is not just an attack on Toast-chan. This is also an attack on the anime industry. The part of the show, part of the commercial as well, is they make it a point. They really have to drive home that like the girl with the onigiri in her mouth, the rice is actually hand-grown and picked by her grandfather in Niigata Prefecture.
Oh, does he also have cancer?
Oh, who knows? Oh, maybe he's on his deathbed and it's like, the one thing I could change in Niigata, Japan, is if only kids these days ate more rice.
Oh, and then they fast forward. They fast forward to the high school girl getting married to the love of her life, and then he's like, you know what? I realized you were the one when you were running towards me, not with a toast, but with a rice ball.
Let's be clear though, right? Japanese rice, like short grain rice, is fucking delicious.
They're dope.
It's really, really good.
They're kind of sticky, but you get used to it.
Yeah, especially with the food that you eat in Japan, like the really like nicely grilled oily fish pairs perfectly well with short grain rice. Now, I didn't know that rice consumption was on the down in Japan, but this just feels like a very specific attack on anime culture just so you can promote your own prefecture's rice products.
And to make it even worse, your live action commercial is live action and not anime when you are kind of criticizing the anime trope itself.
Yeah, if they made Onigiri-chan like an actual anime short, like okay, like I could be down with it. Not to mention when the actress is running with onigiri in her mouth, it looks uncomfortable as fuck. It's a huge onigiri in her mouth. Like most of the time, yeah, toast ain't small either. It's quite a mouthful, but like just go ahead. Like we could link the news article, or you can just Google it. Right?
And here's the
Google
thing.
it.
So they show like the live action of the actress running with onigiri in her mouth. Great. Then they pan to like her friend, I guess, that's in like the corner that is just watching all of this happen and eating another onigiri. So I'm just like, why? Okay.
This is not even like critiquing the whole Toast-chan anime culture. This is literally just them using it as a platform to create an ad campaign to promote their rice products, which, okay, fine. I mean, that's how advertising and promoting products works.
Basically, I think they're trolling a whole bunch of people so people will look their way, basically is how it is. In fact, what they should have done is have Toast-chan or someone with toast and then parallel that with the success story of girl with onigiri in her mouth, basically.
To be fair, though, after reading this, I do want a bowl of Niigata Prefecture rice. But at the same time, it's just hilarious that literally the reasoning for them doing this campaign is we want to defeat Toast-chan. We will take down the Toast-chan community and bring Rice-chan, Onigiri-chan, and take over not just Niigata but also Japan.
Listen, we have gone over what we usually go over in the first half, but even though the world has gone to shit, just think about it for a sec. People are hating on toast because rice consumption is low. The U.S. Billboard Hard Rock chart is at least the number one as of whenever that was. Is
an anime opening.
Is an anime opening. Just like what the fuck? Oh, all of a sudden a badminton business league anime actually looks pretty good. What is going on, Will?
We need to take a break. Let's go get some onigiri, man. Or rather, let's get some sliced toast, and then we'll see which one runs better in our mouth.
Oh, let's do a science project? Okay, I love this.
Yeah, okay, we're going to actually come back and... Well, no, are we? Shall we?
Yeah, we're hella going to come back, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll sign up to our Patreon or follow us exclusively.
We don't have that yet.
We will release exclusive content of Toast-chan versus Onigiri-chan.
I will try to listen to the opening, though, of Attack on Titan and give you my take on it.
Sounds good. Okay, let everything sink in, and we'll come back to you in just a couple seconds. Catch you later.
Welcome back to the second half of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 27. I am your co-host, Jason. I'm joined here by Will, and I have to report in right after hearing the Attack on Titan opening song. It's pretty good.
Yep. So just to give full details, the song is called The Rumbling, performed by the Japanese alternative rock band SIM. That's capital S, lowercase I, capital M. In 2 days' time, or at least I think by the time the episode releases, the band will also be releasing the full song live on February 7th. So it should have come out a day before this episode comes out.
I have to say, though, it's hard rock as fuck.
It's incredibly hardcore.
It reminds me of Parasite the Maxim.
It's a good song. I really enjoyed it. And it makes sense why it's number one for the U.S. hard rock Billboard.
All right, so now that we have reported that, we are now going to get into our main discussion topic, which Will and I have alluded to at the very beginning of this podcast episode. Our topic discussion this time around is about supporting casts.
Yeah, so for the most part, whenever we talk about specific themes or character tropes or characteristics and personalities, we usually focus on singular characters, whether they're the MC or a specific character focused from any specific series. This time around, we're going to be talking about a slew of characters that essentially provide the backbone of a specific series. Now, we do want to at least clarify a slight difference. So, in some cases, you could call them a supporting cast. In other cases, you could call them an ensemble cast. Now, they still dictate that there's a group of characters that are in some way related to the progression of a story, or progression of a series, but there is a distinct difference between the two.
The way that some people might consider it the same, I consider the two terms different. Supporting cast is really a cast of characters that support the main character, the lead MC. Makes sense. That's the name implies.
So, right? Like your Naruto's, your Bleaches, your One Pieces, those would be more like support characters because yes, they the characters outside of the main MC like Luffy, Naruto, and Ichigo, they do have their own plots, they do have their own character progressions, but for the most part, they're there to help enhance the appreciation and the power scaling of the main characters.
And a lot of anime live or even live action stuff, they have supporting casts in everything. Now, ensemble cast, on the other hand, is what I would consider less of a focus on any one particular character, and they develop all at the same time. Tsuredure Children is basically that.
Yeah, you could also make a case for like a lot of other like slice of life things. Like for example, like Eurocamp is yeah, there are two main characters, but you would say that like as a group together, they exist as the whole camping team itself. Like, yeah, you have Nadeshiko, you do have Rinshima, who are the quote-unquote like main characters, but it's not necessarily like they are the main focus. There are going to be times when like you focus on the other characters, and when they're all put together, you kind of don't think that, oh, we have to focus on Rin, you have to focus on Nadeshiko, you focus on everyone put together. It's kind of also like K-On! In a way. It's also similar to, I guess, like, yes, like a lot of other Kyoto animation stories, like the more fluffy ones, you would say that whilst having a main character, it's the whole cast themselves put together that make the story, that make the theme.
So when you think about a theatrical performance, I'm going to use this analogy. A supporting cast is the cast of characters that bow first, and then the main characters bow last. In ensemble cast, I would argue that they all bow at the same time. So something like, here, I'm ready for this time capsule, Will? Riverdance, I would say, is an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
You still get certain focuses on certain dancers, but really it's the whole group. Whereas, I don't know, like Hamilton, I guess, there is a main character. There's a supporting cast that, has other side stuff with...
I guess as well, if you, like, say, for example, like in the realm of music, like an orchestra, right? Like you have the conductor who would bow last because they're the one who put everything together. And so, like, you always have certain scenarios where you look at a cast and think, okay, their purpose is to enhance the overall appreciation of the main character. And an ensemble cast, everyone works together to enhance the plot, to enhance the story. There's really no like black and white definition of who the main focus is. There might be times where there are, but in the end, it's all like a sum of its parts.
Right. I guess going back to anime and manga, idol shows, a lot of those shows are ensemble casts because...
Oh, shit. Q is an ensemble cast.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a huge slew of characters, each with their own trope and personas, but you would consider them all the main characters, so to speak, and not the main characters at the same time. So our episode this time around focuses on the supporting characters and not the ensemble characters. We will actually have an episode on that in the future where we focus on ensemble casts. So, Will, what is your thoughts on supporting characters in general?
A lot of times whenever you have a wide cast, I mean, for example, like, Jesus, if we just talk about Naruto itself, like Naruto has like well over like 100 characters that aren't named Naruto. So like you'll have like your Sasuke's, you'll have your Sakura.
No. You have your Boruto, you have your Minato.
We're not talking about that piece of shit Boruto. If you like the next generation, sure, okay, whatever floats your boat. I'm not part of that. I'm an old head, unfortunately. I'm going to stick with the OG. So you have like the different teams, right? You have like Team Kakashi, Team 17, 8, and you have like all the villains and all that. But generally, all of them exist to be able to create hurdles or relationships for Naruto to venture through, to traverse through, and essentially grow as a main character. Now, I like using supporting characters, because of the fact that there are times when you look at a main character and you're like, wow, like I really, really want to see what progression this guy goes through or this girl goes through, what they have to, what the challenges they have to overcome, what power ups they're going to obtain along their journey. Now, of course, there are going to be times when actually not even a lot of times, like most of the time, your favorite character of a specific series is not the main character. It may, in fact, be a supporting character or even like a very minor character. And it's all about the lasting impression that they make. Sometimes they may just be there as cannon fodder, or they might be there just to basically create a stepping stone for the main character. But if they do a good enough job, they can at times outshine the appeal of a main character. It's just like how we did an After Dark episode about villains a while ago, where like sometimes people root for villains because they actually have more significance compared to the main character. It's in a similar vein here where supporting characters, yes, the main point of them is to support, but you can still see their development and their own personalities come through, and it's up to you as the viewer, as the consumer, to decide whether that effect is enough for you to shift your attention away from the main character and more focus and build an affinity and relationship with a supporting character.
And sometimes it is not even canon, in the sense that fans of a certain series would group these certain pairings together. For example, when it comes to love stories, like, even though the main character is supposed to have a relationship with this character, I kind of like this main character with this person, who is technically not the main love interest, and it's not a theory or through line done by the mangaka or the author of the work.
I mean, like, let's go back to the Naruto thing, right? Like, who's your favorite character out of Naruto? Because I can say mine completely easily, because he gets fucking nerfed in Shippuden.
So I feel really bad because I actually forgot the name, but it's the shadow guy.
That guy was dope. I also forgot his name too. But my other favorite character is Rock Lee.
Oh God,
Who could forget the Rock Lee Gaara fight? Like,
I couldn't.
It's literally the best fight in all of original Naruto. You get to Shippuden, there's some crazy shit there too. But Rock Lee made such a big impression on people because of the fact that we're talking about a character that doesn't have strong ninjutsu, doesn't have good genjutsu, but he's a very good taijutsu fighter, which means he's very good at hand-to-hand combat. He was so popular, the company decided to make a spin-off series called Rock Lee and His Friends. Right? Like, that's what you're talking about. Like, sometimes when you have a Karen character being support, but with overwhelming affection from the wider masses, the company's going to go around and say, actually, you know what? Like, people really like this person. Why don't we make an offshoot series for that specific person? And this is, like, one of the biggest cases where, like, the main character didn't get an OVA because you don't need to. He has enough of the spotlight. Why don't we give more focus to Rock? And there's other cases, there's other shows, like Clannad has the same thing as well. There's also, like, some of the Fate series. There's some characters that also get more attention in OVAs or spin-off series. These happen all the time.
Or it happens organically throughout the fans themselves, regardless of the created product in question. But I think a very, very good example of how a supporting cast outshines the main character is in a genre of anime and manga, light novels, all of that stuff, called harems.
Ah, yes, the H word, not the 18 plus H word, but this is the parental guidance advised H word. Harems are a very interesting topic. In fact, we probably even could just do like a topic specifically on harems. But for the purpose of today's episode,
spoiler alert, Will, we do.
Yeah, so specifically for today's episode, this is just basically a sub point within a larger discussion about supporting casts. Harems are great. I fucking love harems if they're done well.
Yeah, I was about to correct you on that. Yes, if done well. And I think the appeal of harems in general, regardless, is very conducive to the point that supporting casts are more important than the main character, the MC, because usually these main characters is a dude, and usually this person is pretty dense. And obviously the harem, the supporting cast of females, usually, they all have a different, like, character archetype. So if you vibe with a certain character archetype, obviously you're going to choose to root for that character over another. So think about, I guess a very good example is an anime that aired rather recently is Quintessential Quintuplets. And the whole concept of that show is guy is going to marry one of the 5 girls, but which one? And then there's all this back and forth, and then all these characters interact with one another, and the marriage happens, and you find out who it is. But the whole point, for a lot of people, is the journey of fighting over who is their favorite girl, who they would marry instead of whoever got chosen in the end. That is canon, because that's not the right decision. This person is the right decision. You insert yourself into the anime or manga property, and you project your tastes and your preferences onto the characters themselves. So there you go.
Yeah, one of my personal favorite harem series is very old school.
Love Hina?
No, actually, I preferred. I love Hina is really good, but I was actually going to talk about Ichigo 100%. Or Strawberry 100%. Similar thing. Main character gets into a situation where he is looking for a specific love interest because of a discovery. I'll talk about the discovery in the actual harem episode because it's a little bit H material, but we'll go over that later on. Anyways, he then, of course, encounters a slew of different characters, all who living under the same roof or in some way connected to the characters that he converses with. And they all, like you said, have different archetypes. Some will be more like Gyaru, more tsundere. Some of them will be more like Ku or Dan, a little bit more shy, but they open up because, the main character opens them up and is able to thaw that ice cold heart of theirs, or is able to give them the confidence to speak up. Then, of course, you're going to have I don't think there were any yanderes in Ichigo. It's been a while since I've watched it. But yeah, generally, it's more to sort of accentuate the main character's communication and style, how they react to certain situations, how they foster relationships based on specific character types. Harems are essentially a wonderful way to really dive deep into the mind of how perverted and how tasteful of a main character we're watching, depending on the series.
Right. So we will focus put a focus on harems at a later date when we decide to.
There's so much.
There's so much to talk about. So as we said, it's going to be an episode in of itself. But what I will say is, because the MC in this case is very cardboard cookie cutter, it is then very easy to not only insert yourself and project yourself in the anime and manga, but also to choose, I guess.
Exactly. It taps into that fantasy, right? More often than not, it taps into that male fantasy of, oh, I'm in a situation where I have a plethora of choice for love interests. I'm going to experience every single storyline, and then at the end make a decision, or maybe not make a decision, just enjoy whatever the fuck's happening. Sometimes characters don't make an affirmed decision on a harem, but of course, for the most part, there is always going to be one central love interest, and all the other girls on the site are just competition.
It's not also just male dominated. For example, another anime series that has, I guess, a manga also and light novel is villainous isekai all routes lead to doom, which is about a girl who is basically wooed by a bunch of dudes and girls. So it goes both ways. It clearly does. The point that we're trying to make is, in those cases, in these instances with harem in general, supporting cast, I would argue, plays a bigger role than the main characters themselves. So we will focus on that at a later date, but I think it's a good point to make when we're talking about supporting casts.
Yeah. Now, you remember earlier when I was talking about how certain characters that gain popularity as a support character then garner the attention of the wider masses, and therefore it makes sense for the production companies to go ahead and make a spin-off series just for them, like Rock Lee, like certain characters from Clannad, like certain characters from Fates. Sometimes those series end up being as popular, if not more popular, than the main series. Now,
usually it doesn't, though.
Usually it doesn't. Usually it helps to foster more affinity towards the main series itself. But it's like, if you haven't had enough Naruto, you can watch this stuff. If you haven't had enough of the main Fate series, you can watch that stuff. But more often than not, like you said, they're just there to further popularize the main series. But that's not always the case. There are certain anomalies, not many of which I have watched, but I think you have watched.
So it has come to this point where I will need to mention one of the animes that I actually quite adore in general.
Right. Actually, as part of that, then you can put that in together as part of our series recommendations for good supporting casts.
Yeah.
This actually segues well with not only like a surprising spin-off that is more popular than the main series, but it also makes it into your list of recommendations for a supporting cast series that people should check out.
Right. So, but let me sort of provide a bit of context because we haven't even mentioned the property in question. So, there is a light novel series called A Certain Magical Index. It's really popular, and it spans like a long time with, obviously, as you would hear, spin-offs. One of these spin-offs is called A Certain Scientific Railgun, where a supporting character in Magical Index becomes the titular main character. She is called Misaka, and she is known as the Railgun. The thing that I'm trying to make is that this is a separate offshoot, like almost basically like a side story. But the manga that it is based on, and is also written and illustrated by the same group of people that are affiliated with A Certain Magical Index. So A Certain Magical Index is the main property, offshoot being Railgun. Railgun is actually way more popular than Magical Index. And I really like Railgun. I don't give a fuck about Magical Index.
Do you have any spoiler-free explanation as to why the spin-off is higher ranked and more popular than the main series?
I can give you the 5-minute version, but there is also a 50-minute version available. Okay. So I would argue that if you are interested in the whole A Certain, blank series, because it's not only just Railgun and Magical Index, there's also Accelerator, which focuses on the character named Accelerator. Giguk actually did a huge video, like way back in the day, where he goes over everything. And I do hear that Magical Index gets better. I think there's a 3rd season, and it does progressively get better. But in the beginning, what I would say about Magical Index is main character is stupid. The main female character, believe it or not, is a lolly nun. So I'm like, great. It's not really spoiler. So lolly nun. Main male character, his ability, his power, is to nullify all other powers. Whoa, great. Who gives a fuck? Also, I think the struggle that is in Magical Index, the conflict, is actually not interesting to me. And then I was like, Railgun is great. To the point where Railgun T, I think, which is the latest season, because Railgun S is the 2nd season, and then there was like a 7-year gap.
So I'm guessing Railgun S stands for 2nd, and then Railgun T stands for 3rd.
We can only find out 7 years later when they call it Railgun F, I guess.
Then what happens to season 5 then?
FI, bro.
F2.
F2, right. But I really like the casts of A Certain Scientific Railgun. And the trials and tribulations that they go through is fantastic. In this case, I think a lot of people agree, because if you look at my anime list or you look on Reddit, no one really cares that much about my magical index, A Certain Magical Index, but everyone cares about Railgun. So, I don't know, man. I care a lot about Railgun to the point where I would argue it is more important than the main parent series.
So Railgun focuses on a supporting character from Magical Index and is now the main titular character in A Certain Magical Railgun.
A Certain Scientific
Railgun. So what about the supporting cast in Railgun then?
Oh, they don't show up in Magical Index.
Right. But I mean, what's so special about the supporting cast in A Certain Scientific Railgun?
So in order to explain that, I actually have to explain kind of the reason why it is called Magical Index and Scientific Railgun, because in this universe, there is science and there is basically religion as the two main factions of power. The magical stuff is tied to religious beliefs. It's your typical fantasy magic. Scientific Railgun is obviously based in science. So then there's these two forces, these factions that intermingle and have conflict. And that's the whole point of Magical Index, at least like at some point. Whereas in Scientific Railgun, which stars Misaka, it's just what she does at the scientific town, the faction. And that's it. I think the main characters show up from Magical Index in Railgun as like kind of like, oh, I see, that's where the timeline is, or that's kind of cute, but that's it.
Okay. So that would be one of your recommendations for a good supporting cast in an anime.
Yeah. I mean, I can go on really, but you really should watch a certain scientific Railgun because it's really, really good. It features a bunch of girls in high school, kind of Yuri undertones. One girl is super Yuri-esque.
It's no fucking wonder you enjoy this shit, man.
It's My Hero Academia, basically, but actually done in a way that is way, way more than I would give credit for, which is you would think that, oh, this person... Okay, I'm just going to go on a little rant. The main character, she controls electricity, right? Makes sense. There's tons of, like, X-Men has a character that does that. Great. But if you were to take that logical step further, as in, what can I do with it? Oh, what if you can create a wall with electromagnetic fields? What if I can grab a coin and use electricity to project it at the speed of a railgun, hence her moniker? So they take powers and don't just use it as one-offs, but actually be like, okay, I have this power. What am I going to do with it? What can I do with it? And I really respect the way that they follow through on all these powers. So it's really cool. It's great. It's awesome.
Nice. Okay. Well, on to one of my recommendations for a good supporting cast in an anime. I'm going to change up the order a bit, what I've written down here. I'm actually going to start off with the comedy, The Disastrous Life of Saiki K. So we both have like our own personal favorites for gag comedy series, right? Jason really likes Asobi Asobase, which I also really like too. But my personal favorite, and this is like not the slate on Asobi, it's just that Saiki K came first, and I really enjoy Saiki K. So the premise of the story is it features the titular character Saiki K. He is essentially a psychic or an esper of sorts. He essentially has strong psychic powers, which means he's kind of like Magneto, Professor Xavier, kind of like X-Men powers. He's able to manipulate time. He's able to contour the fabrics of reality.
I'm sorry, Will. Technically, Magneto only controls the power of magnetism, so it's nothing to do with time or like it's to do with magnets and metal, man.
Are you really doing this?
No, I'm not.
We'll be right back. No. So, if you would care to listen to the rest of the explanation, Jason, before you decide to jump in.
What's up?
He's a very powerful character because he's able to manipulate actual physics. He's able to create something out of nothing and nothing out of everything.
No way.
He will take away everything and also destroy you, you little piece of shit. See, this is what happens when like I give you the spotlight and I let you say whatever you want. Go on a little rant about magical index, electricity, ray fields, and then when I start talking about crazy shit that happens to my characters, apparently my shit doesn't make sense, and I have to explain why magnetism is actually part of this guy's superpower repertoire. But you don't care to listen for it because you have to come in and start spieling about, oh, magnets aren't psychic, blah blah blah, when I haven't even finished what I need to say. Why don't you just spoil the rest of Demon Slayer for me as well while you're at it?
Nah, it's
Why don't you tell me everything else? You seem to know all the things in or outs about anime and manga and all that.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I do like Saiki K though. It's pretty good.
Yeah, this is not your platform right now. This is my time to talk.
Go ahead.
Right? Okay. So Saiki K is way better than Asobi Asobase because the character the character is basically made way more funny and way more likable through the interactions with his supporting cast. Now, he's a very stoic, kudere type character, doesn't really give up much because of the fact that he wants to hide his Esper powers. He doesn't want to show off and let people know that he actually is the creator and the ender of the world he lives in. He could literally destroy everything around him, but also create something and create new life. But he doesn't want to draw attention. He wants to be a super average, normal kid. He wants to score right in the middle of all school grades. He wants to perform right in the middle of all school meets when it comes to athletics or sports in general. And he doesn't want to attract the attention of his female classmates. He doesn't want to date. Doesn't want to have anybody know who he is. He just wants to get through life. However, the characters around him are all incredibly dense and curious as to who this pink-haired character who wears antenna on his head and why he's just trying to like stay away from the spotlight. So you meet all sorts of tsunderes and yanderes. You meet all sorts of klutzy, burly, like athletic meatheads, and you also meet some, rather interesting delinquents and rich boys and all that. But through their own character interactions with Saiki K, you start seeing Saiki start growing, start becoming more familiar with human interaction, starting to grow out his friend circle, and also knowing how to essentially flesh out his own character. He's not just a simple character that just sits around and just floats around with his magic powers, keeps it to himself. He also knows how to make friends. He knows how to create a sort of camaraderie within the school, even though he still stays on the sidelines. Not to mention the comedy itself is also incredibly funny. I just like it because each character that he interacts with are all very, very different from each other. They're very much the extremes of each character type, each personality, even their types as well. Because there are love interests, except that it's not so much that the main character is dense. It's just the fact that Saiki doesn't want anything to do with them, and in the inverse happens, in which the love interests are too dense to understand that this person is not interested. They just keep going back and back and back for it. So there's a total of 2 seasons on Netflix plus a 6-episode OVA just to wrap up the series, because the manga series ended in 2018, and then there was the final 6 episodes that came out on Netflix back in 2019. So it's all done and dusted. You can read it. It's published by Shueisha, or you can watch all of it on Netflix. It's a very easy watch. It's kind of done like short episode style, but all packaged within a span of 24 to 25 minutes. So there's like 4 or 5 character stories in each one. Kind of, if you watch Nichijou, it's similar to that, except Nichijou is a bit too erratic and wacky for my liking. I think Jason would agree as well. There's parts where like comedy works Nichijou, but for the most part, it kind of falls flat. Saiki K, for the most part, it keeps it consistent. It slowly ramps it up, ramps it down, and there are also emotional subplots as well once you start getting into the second season. So overall, really good story, really good characters, and it all helped to further propel my liking for Saiki K.
I also quite like Saiki K, to be very fair. Sorry, Will.
Right. So you want to start, talking about your own thing?
No.
10 minutes, and then afterwards, when I talk about my next thing, you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong about certain things.
No, nothing. I will say though, when Will says that each quote unquote episode has 4 or 5 kind of mini episodes, it's very similar, I think, to like Teasing Master Takagi-san, for example, where it's like skits or gags, and the comedy style of Saiki K is very, very, I think deadpan is the word, would you say? Kinda. But it is true that there is a lot of characters with a lot of different archetypes, and the comedy is really good, and I quite like Coffee Jello in general. So, there. I think all of them are available on Netflix.
Every episode's on Netflix. Yep. I think like not region locked either, because I think a lot of it was produced by Netflix. So go ahead, watch it. It's a good time. Yeah, I don't think there'd be much issue for you to pick it up and just watch a couple episodes. It's a very easy watch.
All right. My second recommendation for supporting casts actually is an anime that Will has consumed rather recently. It is Chihayafuru. Chihayafuru is about a certain sport. Wait.
Don't fuck it up, Jason.
Kurata.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there you go. Which is played kind of on mats, and you have a bunch of, I guess, cards, and then there is a person kind of reciting the 100 poems, and based on the one that's being recited, you have to swipe the card on the opponent's side or protect the ones that are on your own for the one that is being read. I know when I tell you that, that sounds hella unappealing, but I have to say, though, the cast of characters, which is kind of, there's like the main trio, basically. But I would say the supporting casts, especially when you get on to the later seasons, they really, really focus on sometimes devoid of the main characters even showing up. And it is really good. It's awesome. It is based on the manga by Kodansha. It's in English, published in English by Kodansha. I think there's like up to volume like 47 or something.
What's the manga called?
Chihayafuru.
Ah, good. You didn't neglect to say that as well.
Okay, sorry. It's based on the manga of the
same
same name, written and illustrated by Yuki Tsutsugu. Yeah, okay, sorry, Will. Okay, fine. Sorry. The anime adaptation currently has 3 seasons, and all anime seasons were produced by Studio Madhouse, with the second and third season having a huge time gap in terms of like real time gap. But the quality never dips, and it's just not only a very good character drama, but also a very good sports-oriented anime manga in general. And I can't say nothing. I can say nothing but good things, basically.
My favorite character in the whole series is Kanada.
Right.
Kanada Oe. I mean, I like her character style. I like the fact that she basically connects her love for the art of karate, not through the card playing itself, but through the poems. And then because of the fact that she's a very traditional, cultural young woman, she also then feels that, in order for her to perform, she also needs to wear the proper attire that is attached to this culture. And so she essentially wears her kimonos, and she looks fucking gorgeous, cute and shit in her one as well. I think they even have an episode where they all wear them, except that it gets too hot because the windows aren't open and the AC doesn't work, so they end up all like sweating and dizzy. But yeah, overall, I think that the supporting casts definitely make a very strong impression, because the thing with supporting casts as well is, rather than having like a whole season or a whole series to flesh out your character, a lot of times characters like who are supporting casts have like maybe like 4 episodes, 5 episodes, or even like a shorter amount of time to really show the full scale of their character repertoire. And because of how quickly and how impactful it is, sometimes you then grow attached to those characters, which is why, like, as much as like Chihaya from Chihayafuru, Kanada takes best girl for me from that series.
I also feel that when it gets on to the later seasons, and I guess later on in the manga, the amount of focus that is given to Chihaya and I guess the other 2 guys that are also, I would consider the main trio, is actually gets less and less. But at the same time, the quality of the story being told, the tension, the drama, has sometimes not only stayed the same, but has actually, the stakes have gone even higher. So I really like the fact that when you can say about a certain series that, oh, this huge section of the anime/manga does not even focus on Chihaya, but it is so goddamn well produced and well done, that really says something to me personally about a certain anime or manga series or like novel series or whatever. The fact that the supporting cast can stand on their own without the main character and still be good, it says a lot to me about the quality of the writing, the acting, the story, character development, and so on and so forth. So Chihayafuru, all 3 seasons, you should watch all of them. That's my second anime and even manga recommendation, but you should watch the anime.
The next recommendation I have probably has one of the largest supporting casts, at least within the recommendations we have from my end. I think from most of Jason's as well, but that's not to say that it's any better or any worse. It's just the fact that when we talk about this specific series, we don't always talk about the main characters, especially since the fact that the main characters themselves are great, but the whole slew of supporting characters in this show just are all eccentric, all fantastic, in a way a little bit better, a little bit more varied than what you see in Saiki. So the series I'm talking about here is Gintama. Now, Gintama is an old classic, right? The manga came out in 2003 and only finished serializing just a couple years ago. And then the anime adaptation came out in 2006 and has been running for hundreds and hundreds of episodes. They have like, I think 200 episodes for the first season, and then they break it down into smaller chunks for the subsequent seasons, like Gintama apostrophe, Gintama interesting, Gintama something else. And then there were I think 3 different movies, right? The Gintama part 1, part 2, part final, whatever it is. There's just a lot of Gintama, and it's been running for over 15 years. I think it only just concluded last year. It's a very celebrated property in Japan, but I think in terms of its comedy style, because of the fact that it's very intrinsically Japanese, sometimes some certain things don't necessarily translate into Western audiences, and I feel that's for the most part for a lot of Japanese comedy, but particularly for this one because of the fact that it's very meta. And it's also very self-referential to the time period it's in. It's done in the Edo period, and it also talks about certain people within like the actual real life IRL anime and manga industries at the time. So if you're not really well versed with like what the landscape looked like back in 2006 through to like the early to mid 2010s, then there might be a few things you miss out. But generally, everything starts making sense as soon as you start consuming more and more and more of Gintama. Now, of course, the main characters themselves, like you don't really need to say much, right? Kagura, Shinpachi, and of course, Gintoki himself, right? Like the 3 characters, they're all wonderful. But what I wanted to focus on were like the other supporting assassins that come along in, the supporting police force that comes in. All those teams have such eccentric and varied character types that it just propels the type of humor that Gintama has. It's just a fun time. I mean, like I'm still struggling to finish it all off because I'm around 150 episodes in, and that's still not even finishing season 1. I mean, have you watched any of Gintama, Jason?
No.
All right. Are you just saying that because you actually have not watched any Gintama? Or
I have not watched any Gintama, but I have a younger sister who has. And her journey, she consumes a lot of anime and manga. Shout outs to you. I'm not going to say your name, though, but you know who you are because I only have one younger sister. She went from, I'm just going to check this out, to be like, hands down, Gintama is the best anime series of all time. You laugh, you cry, it's like a whole thing of it in of itself. And I would say that similarly with, for example, Legend of the Galactic Hero, which is a 110 episode space saga. Gintama is one of those white whales that I don't know if I can ever conquer.
It is a trek. I mean, in a sense, why we're doing the Gotta Watch 'Em All series, where we're like, for example, you're doing Jojo.
I am not going to do Gintama.
Gintama could be on the list.
Oh,
it could totally be on the list, but I know, like I said, it's tough. It's tough because of the fact that it spans decades, dude. Like, this is a very, very long running series. Like with Jojo, at most you're watching maybe 200 to 300 episodes. Similarly for me with the Monogatari series, but Gintama is like has been running almost as long as One Piece. Like I can't do that to you, but hey, it's out there. If you want to start this journey, go ahead, because like Jason said, there are a lot of comedy hits, but there also are certain story arcs that are actually incredibly emotional and very on the edge of tear-jerking.
And there are action sequences that I would not have thought that would have been Gintama, because I always associate Gintama with slapstick comedy and
like gag comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like you would not imagine for them to put that much attention and focus into fleshing that out, but they do. They do it really well.
And here's the crazy thing. At one point, I've seen footages because my sister showed me. It gets like self-referential and meta within itself. Like they're criticizing the budget that the animators had. So then they're like, we just blew our animation budget. So here's an episode of us in a room talking. And it's going to be a really good episode, but sorry, guys, we ran out of budget. So see you next week, guys.
Yeah.
like, what? Okay.
One episode, what they did was, I think they did like a rerun of like the first half of the previous episode, and then halfway through, they're like, "Wait, what the fuck was that? Why are we playing that?" Sunrise, the company that is animating the studio, had a bit of a delay, so we weren't able to blah, 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 blah. I was like, wow, really? They're actually bringing in real life problems into the actual anime itself? Like, it could not be any more meta than that. The fact that they're bringing in real life like work problems into an anime problem, it's a fun time.
And it makes sense. I don't know how else to say it. And the Japan also agrees, because Gintama, the final, which to my knowledge is actually the finale movie of the whole Gintama saga, did extremely well, not only in terms of box office records, but in terms of critical acclaim and popularity. Because if you were to go on my anime list and check out, or even Reddit, for example, and check out like the top animes that are being discussed, Gintama is on there. And I think that when you talk about anime and manga in general, if you don't mention Gintama, like, or at least know of it, then what the fuck are you doing?
Gintama is pretty much like in the same kind of threshold as like One Piece. I would even say like Detective Conan or Case Closed. Like in terms of like the pantheons of anime history for Japan, Gintama like has a seat of its own near the top, if not at the top, along with a very, very, very selective amount of series that Japanese people just keep close to heart. And I hope that it's also the same for you, because I really, really enjoyed reading and watching Gintama.
Let me just close the Gintama recommendation with this. There are documents, just like how the Monogatari series has different airing orders. There is literally a document that my younger sister showed me of, these episodes are fillers, don't watch them, or you can watch them, but really, this is what you need to do. There are these intricate kind of laid out schematics and plans of how to consume Gintama. That is the effort that the community is so passionate about with Gintama. And you just gotta, hats off to them, right? Like,
you could also just do what I did and just watch everything. I think no matter how you approach Gintama, you will find a level of appreciation for it. Even if you're not too well versed in specific meta humor or like Japanese culture, it still hits the right notes in terms of an overall package of comedy, action, and sometimes in like emotional impactfulness.
If you watch Gintama and nothing else for the rest of your life, I will still give you mad props.
I mean, that's what I did with when I just did nothing but read One Piece for 3 months.
Exactly, right? Like, One Piece or Gintama can be anime/manga for you in of itself. So
it's one of the greatest journeys you can go on. It's just like one of those things. I mean, like, who knows like how long this anime journey for us is going to be, but it's like, I'm glad that like I've done One Piece. I'm glad that I'm doing parts of Gintama. I mean, for you, Monogatari, like, which you picked up on a whim, and it's now like one of your favorite series of all time. It's just one of those things where like you don't just appreciate the main theme, the main topic. It's like, certain characters like speak to you as well. It's like from Monogatari. I mean, there's definitely a slew of supporting characters from Monogatari that basically like propels your love for the series. I'm not sure if it's one of your recommendations, but hey, look, like, that's another one that could be on your list. That's it for Gintama. Any final words for yourself, Jason?
Wooden swords.
Yeah, OP as fuck. We talked about that in previous episodes.
We did.
Yeah. Okay, so that was my long-winded explanation as to why I love Gintama. Now for Jason's long-winded explanation as to why he loves the next series recommendation.
First off, Will, we need to order.
Yeah, I got it in. Don't worry about that.
Cool. Okay.
We were talking about this because we're both hungry as shit. We want to order food. So, yeah, we got this under control. On to Jason for his third recommendation.
So I consumed this anime series over a long, long period of time. And it's not complete, but the manga is completed. But I would say Will has encountered this sports anime/manga series, quite recently.
Oh, quite possibly. Okay, like, if we're not talking about the old heads, I know that people are going to say Slam Dunk, but...
Okay, I love Slam Dunk. I watched it from beginning to end. I did not read the manga, but it's good.
Like, if we're talking about, like, this century... Like, when did Slam Dunk end? I knew of it from the 80s and 90s. Like, it definitely ended...
I watched it as a kid, so I don't really know, actually.
Right. So, like, if we're just talking, like, in the last 10, 15 years, Haikyuu is probably the best sports anime there is, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, like, I'm not into sports. I've said many times I was never really that into sports anime, and that all changed with Haikyuu. And thank you, Jason, for showing me the light. I really, oh God, I still need to watch To the Top.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's gonna be a fun time. But like ending up on the hype that was season 3, like I'm fully ready to hear as to why you love Haikyuu and why its supporting cast is one of the best in anime.
So, for context, Haikyuu is a manga series that was published in Shonen Weekly Jump. It finished, and it is based and written and illustrated by Haruichi Furudate.
And your pronunciation's going on point today.
I try, bro.
What happened?
I don't know.
Must have been that magneto power, huh?
Dude.
The magnets in your head are working now.
It's great. You know, they repel each other, so that's why it works out.
Right. But did you ever read any of the manga?
I took a look through them, but it's one of those things where, like, for example, one of the most recent music anime that I consumed that I really like is Sounds of Life, Kono Oto Tamare. And the reason why I will not really consume the manga is because when it comes to musical animes, the music is a huge part of it, obviously. So when you can't hear it, when there's only just visuals, it really is hard to really grasp the significance of what is being played, for example.
Yeah.
Like you get monologues, but like it's the audio part is like a huge part of it. I would say with sports, having it in motion with the sound and the orchestra, or like, you know, the orchestral soundtrack, it makes
the audience cheering in the background as well, right? You could see maybe it's like a slap shot of like someone kicking a ball, or like I guess in like a fighting like anime or a fighting manga, like having like still shots of like a fist being clenched and like connecting with someone. It's like, yeah, it works, but when you see everything in one fluid package, like that further like accentuates the euphoria you get from a hype sports moment.
I mean, it makes sense even in live action, real life situations where if I were to give you the play-by-play like a website, because sometimes you can't watch the live stream, it is just words and you're just like, okay, cool. But when you're there in the stadium, hearing all the music, all the crowd cheering, all the hype around it, it makes a huge difference. That's why home and away teams are such a huge difference. And in Haikyuu, it is about volleyball, particularly about a certain school that kind of doesn't had its glory days.
How do you pronounce the high school name? Because even the characters in the anime don't know how to pronounce it either.
Kurosawa?
Kurasuno.
Fuck, what did I say? Kurosawa? What is Kurosawa?
Kurosawa.
Is that like the Seventh Samurai?
I think, yeah.
Fuck off, Jason. Fuck.
You were so good. You almost got there.
Third time's the charm in the opposite direction, right?
Right. But
okay.
Haikyuu is fantastic. It's a great show, but I agree with Jason that its supporting cast is S tier.
Because, yes, you have a titular main team that you focus on. But I will say this. For example, the latest anime season, which is called To the Top, there is a section of that anime series that actually does not focus at all with the main team in question. It actually pivots to another team. And I would argue that this team is also very, very cool, charismatic, and very important to the main storyline of Haikyuu. But you get all these different teams, and all these different teams have kind of their shtick, right? You get the wall, right? You get the cats. You get, I mean, what's Abijo say? Like, kind of like just good setter, right?
Yeah, they all have like their specific character types. They have their specific edge when it comes to playing in this volleyball league amongst all the different schools in the region, and then eventually nationals.
And it's just really, really well done. They kind of go expand onto different teams. When you, as I said earlier, when you care about the supporting casts a lot without the main cast, that tells how powerful this series or that particular series is. When you pivot to another team completely and you talk about them, if I give a shit about that or like I get emotional or whatever, it's great. And so let's focus away from all the other teams and talk about the teams themselves, because technically there are two main characters, right? Hinata and Kageyama, would you say are the two main characters of Haikyuu?
I mean, like they're literally like on every poster. Like they're the dynamic duo, right?
Right. But I would say, for example, there is a really tall person, really skinny tall person, and I don't like this character, but it has one of the best moments in all of Haikyuu, the anime. And it happens in season 3, that 10-episode series.
That could be like a tear-jerking moment as well. Just seeing the level of exhilaration in that episode from a supporting character's perspective. I mean, one of my favorite characters is Nishinoya.
I love him. Like, when he does that kick, let's just say.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic. Or the quote-unquote ace, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right?
And
Will?
enter inspirational Haikyuu quote right here,
Right.
right? Like, I will save every ball there is as long as you set the point and win. It's like, okay, yeah, that's it, right? Like, everybody is there to be able to propel Hinata to score that winning point.
Or Kageyama to help set the ball to score. And here's the thing. Will and I agree on this point. I don't give a shit about Hinata, really.
He's not a bad character. You can like him, but it's like he's very stereotypical cookie cutter kind of like shonen MC.
And his journey into the top is actually really good because there's actually development. But in terms of like pantheon of characters in Haikyuu, I don't really care about Hinata, really.
Yep.
But I care.
It sounds harsh.
It sounds harsh. And I've nothing against him per se.
It's just because of it, the other characters have a lot more significance to us as opposed to Hinata. You know that you're supposed to root for Hinata, so that by default means that you kind of dock a few points from like rooting for him. Like you know he's going to succeed at some point. But the other characters, there's no guarantee.
Right. So if you want, you can read the manga by Viz Media. It's all complete. I think there's like 40-something volumes. Let me see. 45 volumes.
Now that's a journey, yeah.
And then the anime has 4 or 5 seasons, depending if you count To the Top as 1 season or 2. And then they're all produced by Production IG. A lot of people said that To the Top, the quality of the animation dipped a bit. And while I kind of agree, I think the character moments in To the Top, especially the second half, but also the first half, is 9 out of 10 for the first half. Second half is a 10 out of 10. I just got so emotional. It's really a great show. It is just, there's so much that you can relate to in real life, your struggles, you get the talent versus the effort, you get the top dogs versus the bottom rung people, the underdogs, you know. So all these tropes that you would consider generic are done so well in Haikyuu. Will, do you have anything else to say before we move on to you?
Fucking watch Haikyuu. What are you fucking doing? We've done so many episodes on Haikyuu already. This is already like one whole year into the fucking podcast.
We did sports. We mentioned that. What else?
We did some other main character tropes.
Oh, no. I did top 10 animes to recommend. I said Haikyuu.
Yeah, and that was like the first series episodes we've done. So like,
yeah,
it's been a whole year of recommending Haikyuu. Dude, fucking watch it, man.
And guess what? I will keep recommending it at any opportunity that I get.
Until the whole world has watched or consumed Haikyuu.
Or at least the anime is finished to completion. But yes.
Now, moving on to one of my personal favorite series of all time. And I know it gets a certain level of flack because of the fact that the first couple episodes do take some time to grow. I've heard this. I've experienced it myself. I'm talking about none other than Steins Gate. Okay. Steins Gate is one of the greatest series of all time. Don't at me. You can fight me in the comments. I won't fight you in real life because I don't want to get hurt. But we can have a intense discussion on Reddit, on Twitter, or whatever you want.
Or on our Discord server.
Exactly. We'll link you to the code later on at the end of this episode when we do our cleanups. So Steins Gate is a science fiction thriller set in Japan, done by White Fox. And it's part of the whole science verse. So there's a couple other series in there like Chaos Head and some other stuff.
I forgot.
Robotics Notes. Yeah, that's another one too.
I forgot to add the semicolon.
Yeah.
Bad. Right?
Just to correct me, right? Like it is Steins Gate.
No, I'm not correcting you. I'm just saying like I actually forgot to put the semicolon.
And we forget.
And that's a tragedy because it's very important, actually.
Yeah. So it follows, two main characters, Rintaro, who is the crazy mad scientist, and Kurisu, who is one of the epitomes of what it means to be a tsundere. Now, they're wonderful characters. You definitely fall for their whole love dynamic, partner and friend dynamic, especially as the series progresses and when we get into Steins Gate Zero. However, the supporting cast for this series is one of the greatest put together casts because it focuses on individual stories, personal growth, tragedies, grief, and of course, wishful thinking and having the confidence to be able to break out of one's shell. There are certain characters which I can't name because if I do, it's a spoiler, unfortunately. Except there is one character. In terms of the whole supporting cast, which I love, and she is second best girl for me, and that is none other than Mayuri Shina, because she, first of all, she's voiced by.
Does she wear a dress?
Yes, blue
is
dress.
She blue? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and guess who voices her?
I don't know. Kanahana.
It's fucking Kanahana.
There you go.
Right? Oh my god, I fucking love Mayuri. If people are simping over Kurisu, fine, do your thing, but I am a Mayuri simp, so. Have that on record. She's one of the best supporting characters because she helps to ground the main characters, keeps their feet level so that they don't go off and do stupid erratic shit when things go off the rails. Other main characters would probably try and level themselves. No, the supporting characters are the ones who come in and say, "Look, the world is a bad place right now. Just stay calm, stay level-headed, don't do anything stupid." And we will all get through this together, happy and alive. It's just a very emotional story. I don't know how else to describe it other than the fact that because of the interactions between Rintaro and the supporting characters, you don't care too much, but you care a lot about him in Steins Gate Zero for sure. But generally, you help root for all the supporting characters. The fact that of the whole series, my favorite character is Mayuri. I have nothing else to say other than if you love science fiction, if you love psycho thrillers, if you just love seeing characters develop over time, slowly build up, and then boom, halfway through, greatest character developments. This is it. This is there's a reason why it's in the top 10 of my personal favorite anime of all time. I guess not much else to say other than the fact that just like Jason with Haikyuu, I'm going to remind all of you to please check out Steins Gate. It is not boring.
So, despite the fact that I have not seen it, I will support Will in terms of giving some facts. So, Steins Gate actually is originally the source is a visual novel of the same name, which is developed by 5PB and Nitro Plus. There, as Will mentioned with Chaos Head, it is a slew of different, iterations or something like that. Furthermore, Steins Gate, as Will mentioned, has also Steins Gate Zero, and then I think there's several movies.
There's a Steins Gate movie, and I believe there's now a Steins Gate ? As in, there's supposedly a new property coming out from the 5PB team, but we don't know much about it yet. But they did say that there might be a continuation of certain voice cast members. Who knows? Nothing is concrete yet.
Right. Steins Gate is 24 episodes, I think, or at least 2 cours, and Steins Gate Zero is similar with 2 cours as well.
Yes.
And they are all produced by White Fox or
White Fox.
Okay.
And it's gorgeous. Fucking beautiful.
So Will earlier mentioned about the early episodes of Steins Gate proper, as in Steins Gate. I have to kind of say that I watched maybe the first or second episode maybe twice.
And it turned you off, right?
It totally turned me off. Not because it was bad, but it wasn't what I was thinking based on the accolades that it got.
The fact that it's top rated anime of all time on my anime list, and not only critically but also popularly vouched for by everyone in the world, and then you see it and you're like, wait, am I watching the same thing? Because I went through the same thing too, but I stuck through it. Well, I mean, I stopped and then I got back to it, and then that's when it was like, okay, this is it. This is why it's so popular. But I understand that mountain at the end to overcome, it is quite a bit. I understand that.
It's just like JoJo Part 1 with a lot of people, right? Everyone, prays to high heavens what JoJo Bizarre Adventure is. Like, it's like a godsend. And having gone through even a little bit past what I usually would go through, like 3 or 4 times already, it's great already. But to overcome that hurdle, you really need to kind of stick through it. The other thing that I would say about this is that Steins Gate is actually a science fiction anime. And I don't think it's spoilery to say it's about time travel.
Not at all. I mean, like, all the trailers, all the previews about it are all about time. In fact, a lot of times when we're talking, they say time a lot.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Usually whenever we talk about science fiction, time is a pretty important proponent of what makes the series, what makes the property. So yeah, please spend some time to check out Steins Gate. It is definitely going to be an enjoyable amount of time.
Or good use of your time.
Yes.
Then
Now, next time, now it's time for Jason to go over his 4th recommendation.
this anime that I'm going to recommend is based on the light novel series of the same name, written by Ryogo Narita and illustrated by Suzuhito Yasuda.
There. Nice.
I think there is a total of technically 2 seasons, but the second season is split into 3 parts. Will and I have consumed season 1, and we have also consumed the first chunk of 3 of season 2. This is Durarara. I can't really tell you the plot of Durarara because it's really weird. All I can tell you for a fact is that it takes place in Tokyo, specifically Ikebukuro, which is kind of basically the new Shibuya, because no one gives a shit about Shibuya anymore. So, sorry, Shibuya.
I mean, like, I think a series that came out a couple seasons ago, like Ikebukuro Westgate Park. No one's talking about Shibuya now. It's either like Shinjuku, Ikebukuro, or it's some boony town,
Or Akihabara, I guess.
Akihabara, yeah, Akiba, yeah.
So, Durarara technically has 3 main characters who are high school students. 1 girl, 2 guys. Obviously, the 3-0 formula is always 1 girl, 2 guys. But I would argue that their kind of story is not that interesting compared to even I would consider the mascot of Durarara, which is a person by the name of Celti. And she is kind of like this urban legend of a headless horseman, basically, but modernized. So she is a headless motorcyclist.
She is a living urban legend, essentially. And just to clarify one thing as well, on my anime list, they do list Celti as a main character. However, if you actually watch the series, that's not an accurate depiction at all.
Right.
It's very clear that there are 3 main characters, which are Sonohara is one of them. That's the name of the girl, Anri Sonohana. Orihara, which is the black-haired boy. And then Kida. Masami Kida, who is the blonde in the team. So those are the 3 main characters, and then everyone else is a slew of varying importance, but still very much impactful supporting characters.
I will say this about the amount of characters. When you look at the opening title sequence of season 1, it is like, why are there like 16, 20 different characters being introduced?
There's a dark-skinned Russian sushi owner. There's a guy,
awesome guy
who's able to rip up telephone poles and beat people up.
Oh, he's a bartender.
Then all of a sudden there is like 2 like Hollywood stars who fake their own deaths, but then when they come out, they're driving Ferraris around the world, committing crime and all that.
And there are 3 random guys, a girl and 2 guys in a van. And that's like a big deal. There are like assassins. There's like a dude that's wearing a gas mask at all times. Mm-hmm. There's a doctor.
There's a mad doctor and like an even madder brother.
Yes. And like there's this one mastermind that lives like in the top of the skyscraper
who just stirs shit up, but he's also incredibly powerful. He's basically like the brain, and like because of the fact he's the brain, he knows everything that happened in Ikebukuro. Nothing is out of his grasp.
I think that this show is fantastic because it really kind of cements the reality that the world is trying to set, which is this feels like a living place where like, oh, I will go to the sushi place and visit the big black guy that like really does sushi well, but can also beat the fuck out of you.
But he's also like Russian for some reason as well, and he decides to do Russian sushi. But he's also like if you want to talk about the real dark depths of downtown Japan, downtown Tokyo, like I'm in there.
And they don't shy away from that. Oh, by the way, there are zombies, kind of, and there are like mystical shit. They are like people in head jars at one point.
This is one series. This is one whole series.
There's Frankenstein, I guess.
Yeah.
Actors are all like people who are actors in the world shows up. Like,
and we haven't even talked about the three main characters yet. One of which can, actually has like crazy superpowers as well. But like that's not your focus anymore. Like Jason said, there's so much shit going on in the world of Durarara's Ikebukuro that you could just enjoy that world. You don't have to get that deep into the main character's world.
And here's the thing. Celti is, as Will said, I would say it's the mascot, would you say, of Durarara?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Just like how people like would say Rock Lee is the greatest in Naruto, I would say that Celti is like the de facto face of the Durarara franchise.
I give a lot of shits about her and her development and her interactions with a lot of people. And here's the other thing too. Everyone kind of knows everyone, or like you can do like 6 degrees of separation, and they really like spend time on everyone.
The best part about Celti as well, she does have a Dere type. You should watch to find out which one she has.
And is actually quite cute.
I fucking love her.
The romance is great. So I honestly think that Durarara is fantastic. And the first season, which is Two Curves, is produced by Brains Base in 2010, and season 2 was produced by Suka in 2015/2016 because, as I mentioned earlier, it is 36 episodes, but 12, 12, 12, split into 3 parts. And it's really good. Super good.
I'm going to not spend too much time talking about my next one because I've said it so many times. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has some of the best supporting cast ever, and they're always changing from every season. Jason can already vouch for season 1. There's some pretty interesting supporting characters, and it only grows from season 2, 3, 4, 5, and now currently 6, which is now airing on Netflix. Hopefully, the next part of this season will come out soon. Yeah, I got nothing much else because the fact that each character has their own like powers, their own like stands, and each stand is a further extension of the characters themselves, and then like through that like the supporting characters have supporting powers, which then have supporting stories, and it all blends into this crazy bizarre world that is JoJo. I don't need to say anything else. Like I'd rather we just spend more time talking about other things because. Yeah, I could have recommended anything else besides JoJo, but I just have to hammer home that in my eyes, and a lot of people's eyes as well, and hopefully when Jason starts to progress through more of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
which we will this podcast season,
that this whole series has some of the best supporting characters of all time. And without further ado, drop the mic, move on to Jason's final recommendation of the best supporting cast in anime.
Actually, before that, I will say JoJo also has a very good example of the spin-off series being maybe not better than the quote-unquote parent series, but is relevant, which is Rohan Kishibe, right?
Which is also really good, too.
Exactly, right?
So good.
When you hear, like, spin-off series, you usually, like, go, like, whatever or don't give a shit. But from what I've heard from a lot of people, including Will himself, Rohan Kishibe is a worthwhile side story.
It's a good excursion, for sure.
So it's great. I can't wait to consume more and tell you guys all about it. Very soon, actually, right?
Yeah. Now, the next and final recommendation from Jason's side, which I actually started picking up again just yesterday. Do you want to break it down? Bring in the final supporting cast anime recommendation?
So, before I do that, though, Will, I'm going to have to give a bit of something that probably only most of Hong Kong people would understand. There is a comedian called Stephen Chow. He used to direct at least, and produce and stars in his own comedy movies. And when I was growing up, I watched a lot of his movies. Did you, Will, as well?
I think I've watched like almost every single Stephen Chow movie.
I mean, he did Shaolin Soccer, which I think is
He did Kung Fu.
exact Kung Fu Hustle. So that's I guess the two movies that the West would know more. Of the movies that he has made, produced, starred, there is one. I actually do not know the English name to this day. What is it? Do you know? It's cooking god is Sixth Son.
It's the god of cookery.
God of Cookery. My bad. Sixth Son. And it is a fantastic kind of spoof and parody of the food industry and being chefs. And one moment that I will always remember till the day I die is this one person taking a spoonful of this dish. This really big burly guy takes a spoonful of this dish, eats it. Then the next thing you see is him wearing a dress, prancing around on the beach, kind of like explaining the texture and the flavor and everything. So, of course, anime has that equivalent. We're talking none other than Shokugeki no Souma, also known as Food Wars in the West. It is based on the manga of the same name, written by Yuto Tsukuda and illustrated by Shun Seki. It actually has ended quite a bit. It was released on Shonen Weekly Jump, and I think Viz Media obviously does the English publications, I think. Yes, 36 volumes. The anime adaptation is complete with 5 seasons, all produced by JC Staff. And I have read/watched. I did not watch the last season, but I'll get to that. But I've read all of it.
Furthermore, like furthering the whole like over-exaggerated reactions to like eating wonderful food, Food Wars is essentially visual food porn. The reactions are over the top, lewd as shit at times, actually a lot of times, and with good reason. I mean, it's just basically like making fun of itself. It's not meant to be taken seriously, but the food part can be taken seriously because they do a lot of research and a lot of like actual like preparation into actually creating a certain dish that utilizes specific ingredients, specific styles. But the comedy part is just primo stuff.
The mangaka actually consulted like a kind of like a specialist or had like an advisor to kind of instruct them on the cuisines and everything that would take place in the manga/anime. I would also say that if you like MasterChef, for example, Shokugeki no Soma is basically anime MasterChef because Shokugeki no Soma, also known as Food Wars, takes place at a school, but instead of your typical curriculum, it revolves all around food. Then you get all these titular side characters, and I call them titular side characters because they all have their own shtick, they all have their own cuisine, and their interactions with each other are fantastic.
Yeah, forget about the fact that the Japanese title itself is Shokugeki no Soma. Yes, the main character's name is Souma, but all the side characters are incredibly memorable. They are all funny as shit. I don't think that you would have any problems watching Food Wars. However, I do think that Jason does have something to mention about the latest season, or the final season.
So the final major arc of the manga and the final season of the anime, known as season 5 of the anime, you should not watch, period. You should just stop at the end of season 4. And if you are at the manga, if you're reading the manga, it's very obvious where you should stop, because basically it should have ended there. It would have been a really good ending, but I guess they wanted to milk a little bit more, or I don't know, or maybe tell a bit more story or context, but it was shit. I can't tell you because of spoilers, but can tell you, at least from the anime perspective, at the end of season 4 is where you should stop and just pretend that season 5 does not exist. Or I think in season 5 it's called the final plate or whatever. So yeah, that's my feelings on Shokugeki no Soma, aka Food Wars. Will,
I mean, despite the final like season gripe that you have, right? Like everything else before it is fun. Like when I first watched it, I was like, this is incredibly weird, and I like it. It's exaggerated, it's risque, it's lewd as fuck at times. Like there are parts where it's like
very,
you don't think it needs to be, but like that's the whole appeal about the show. It's like sometimes you forget that it's about food.
Yeah, like basically you take a spoonful of food and your clothes rip off and you're naked. But let me also tell you that it's gender neutral because both guys and girls had their clothes ripped off. So
everybody has
eye candy for everyone.
Everybody has their moment. Especially where it's like one of them, it's like, oh, like this food is really, really great. And then all of a sudden, like the human embodiment of that very food shows up and you're like lusting over them. It's like, this is incredibly fucking stupid, but I'm here for it. I want to see more of this.
There is a Godzilla reference. There is a Jojo reference. There are so many references that they make of all these anime and manga properties. And it goes to show that they really love anime and manga and celebrate it. This time with a little bit of entree as well. So I think you should watch Food Wars. It's massively popular. If you haven't considered it, you should, because there's always going to be a character or two that you love.
The final recommendation I have is a classic. It's like it's a titan within the anime and manga community, but unfortunately, because it's such an old property, I do understand that there's going to be some people who maybe don't vibe with the art style for both the manga and the anime. I'm talking, of course, about one of my personal favorites and one of Jason's personal favorites, Monster. Now, Monster is a very classic psycho thriller, came out back in 2002, I think. No. That was the 1994 from the incredibly awesome Naoki Urasawa, who has done 20th Century Boys. He's also done what else did he do?
Pluto.
Yeah, Pluto as well, which you've recently finished.
And I really like Pluto a lot.
Yeah, the manga is 1994 and finished up in 2001, over 18 volumes. The anime was done by Madhouse and started in 2004, ran to 2005. So a consecutive release of 74 episodes to wrap everything up. I read the manga. I was able to get my hands on it, but I can recommend you go either route. I think the pacing is a little bit slower in the anime for some reason, but it speeds up later on. So it focuses on a certain doctor. His name is Kenzo. He's a brain surgeon who was working in Germany. Now, unfortunately, because of the hospital he works at, there's a lot of political shit that goes on behind the scenes. His wife does have some pull with regards to the wife or girlfriend, I forgot. His partner essentially has some ties with German politics, which means that sometimes he doesn't have the freedom to be able to actually save lives. He has to prioritize certain things, certain people, and then of course he runs into a situation where he needs to save the lives of two people, namely Johann Liebert and Anna Liebert. One of them has a serious ailment. One of them is going through some real serious psychotrauma. And from that unfolds a whole slew of crazy mystery, thrilling moments, deception, betrayal, violence, and just in general, just shock horror. It's a fucking wonderful time. And it's further accentuated by the cast that comes along the journey of Kenzo. All the supporting characters, whether he meets them in Japan, in the US, in Europe, they all play a significant part of the monster journey. There is no character that is left untouched, left unturned. They all have significant impact on not just the ascendance of the character, but the ascendance of the story. It's just a freaking wonderful time because everybody has their own thriller moment, and whether they make it out alive or not, you just want to know more about their individual stories.
I would say that the manga is just so beautifully crafted from beginning to end. It is amazing, and it goes to show how sometimes a certain decision can be made, and the ramifications of it goes out of control beyond your wildest dreams. And I will not spoil the villain, but I would say that villain is just, dude, like, if that person was standing in my doorway, I would freak the fuck out. But I will say that I can't say much about the anime because I didn't watch it. I read it when I was a kid, a teenager, read it in traditional Chinese. I will say, though, there is at one point that
Gotta say, like, for particularly the Hong Kong, Naoki Urasawa, at least Hong Kong and Taiwan, Greater China in general, extremely popular.
Extremely.
People really love 20th Century Boys. People really love Monster.
I
Pluto is, I guess, maybe a little bit more sort of niche, but it's still part of his repertoire.
When I got grounded and my mom had to throw out all my manga, I pleaded with my mom not to throw out 20th Century Boys and I had to choose between 20th Century Boys or Monster. I chose 20th Century Boys. But man, that decision was hard to make. And
it's of course. I mean, the fact that it could have been anything else, but it's the fact that it's both by Urasawa.
Yeah.
Like, that
I was like, oh, Doraemon? Yeah, sure.
Take that.
I mean, it sucks, but yeah, sure. Go ahead.
My Game Boy, take my Pokemon Red, fine, whatever. But leave the manga behind, please.
Love Hina, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It sucks, but yeah, don't worry about it. 20th Century Boys, you should stay. And I was really devastated by losing all of Monster, but I'm sure I can get it now if I want to. But I think at one point, the brain surgeon arms himself at one point.
Yes. I think midway, not even midway, like quite early on, actually.
No, I thought it was quite late, actually.
He doesn't arms. He's able to acquire arms, but then later on is like made a calculated decision to go and actually procure arms.
And that moment is like a huge deal, which is crazy because when we're surrounded by anime and manga, that's all about crazy violence, instant gratification, beheading and stuff. The violence in Monster is super psychological.
It's very muted, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is like has violence, quote unquote, but really, when your main character doesn't get a certain thing to protect himself with, and the fact that he had to spend an exorbitant amount of effort to get it, then had to learn how to use it, and they don't shy away from any of that, really puts into perspective the kind of realistic tone that the manga is trying to have and the anime is trying to have, and kind of just everything is grounded in reality that it can happen to you. Okay, you may not be a brain surgeon, but similar consequences can happen.
The best part about this as well is that while it is a journey, it's not the longest of journeys. It's only 18 volumes, which if you compare it to stuff like Haikyuu is like almost 3 times that length.
45.
Right? So you really do have a cutout for you where like it is one of the most thrilling stories, and it's all in a neat package where it doesn't go on too long. It does just enough to build certain stories, build certain characters, and the supporting characters. Nobody outstays their welcome. They're there for the duration of time they are, whether they live or die, and it's just great. I can't recommend it anymore. Please pick it up. Please watch it. You will not be disappointed by Monster.
All right. So just to reiterate in terms of our recommendations for best supporting casts in anime and manga.
Supporting cats or supporting casts?
Casts. Sorry.
Are we doing a Neko-chan episode in the future?
We actually might do a cat girl. Don't discount that bullshit.
Shit. Okay.
So I recommended a certain scientific Railgun, Chihayafuru, Haikyuu, Durarara, and Food Wars.
I got Saiki, Gintama, Steins Gate, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, and of course Monster.
All right. So a little housekeeping. You can always reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. You can also contact us on Twitter using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. We have a Facebook page at www.facebook.com/PaletteGood. Capital P, capital G, all one word. You can also join us on Discord. We have a Mal Club. We had a member join us. That was kind of interesting. Will knows this person personally. If you're listening, can you please reply to me? I kind of want to chill with you, talk to you a bit. But hey, music credits for this episode. Oh, actually, sorry. If you want to hang out on Discord, please do. If you want to be on the Mal Club, please do. Just look in the show description or email us. We'll give it to you. Absolutely no problem. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is No Cry by Fashion. Our break music is Be Right There by Omie. And our outro music is Future Vibes by Q. Our music was provided courtesy of epidemicsound.com. If you're interested in using Epidemic Sound as a service, we will have a referral link that is provided for you in the show description. All right.
This was an actual tough episode to do because of the fact that a lot of the shows we watch have great supporting casts. Like, again, the 5 that Jason recommended, the 5 that I recommended, they're not just the only shows out there. We, of course, are limited by time, but look, you look through any series that you watch, don't just focus on the main character. Don't just focus on the journey or the theme of that specific series. Like, really try and build up a relationship or an affinity for the side characters because they need love. They need focus. They need some attention as well.
I also feel like the fact that usually when we go on our discussion topics, we spend a good amount of time, discussing the theme or the origin, the definition, so on and so forth. But this time around, even though we do have a bit of that, we spent a lot of time really talking about our recommendations themselves, because we really feel that the whole point of supporting actors is they're kind of behind the scenes a bit comparatively to the main characters. I mean, that's their whole quote-unquote purpose.
That's the reason why, like, in real life, you also have, like, awards for best supporting actors and actresses. Like, they deserve recognition, too, because they help to push the plot of whatever you're watching and consuming.
And just because you are a supporting cast does not mean that you're any lesser than a main character minus maybe the spotlight and screen time. You could be sometimes just as impactful, or in some cases, as we argued, more impactful than the main character.
Yep. Support in this sense is purely for functional reasons, not for status reasons at all. And we appreciate every single one of you supporting characters.
We appreciate all you guys listening. And
I did not just call the listeners supporting characters, by the way.
Bro, I tried to sweep that under the rug.
Well, we technically are the main characters of the GAP, right? So I guess guests will be the supporting characters, but we'll let them decide whether they want to be called guests or supporting characters. Anyways, sweep that under the rug.
Yeah, try your best now. All right, I'm Jason signing off.
This is Will signing off. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.